Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Sean Vermahil and I am a co-founder of virtualemployee.com. Today I'm in Atlanta, Georgia in the United States to meet with Ike, a co-founder and the CEO of Launchpad Pro. In today's case study you're going to learn a variety of things, from how we protected his intellectual property rights to how outsourcing to India is good for the United States economy, and the differences between our team model and dedicated employee business model services. Most importantly, you're going to learn how the ability to scale up and down with ease with our business has enabled Ike to leverage that to his advantage. Often when working with IT professionals, if you stop working with them and start working with new IT professionals, it can be highly inefficient because developers need time to come up to speed with code that's done by previous developers. In this case study, you're going to learn and see how Ike was able to scale down and then 6 months later scale up with ease, but not have to go through that knowledge process all over again from scratch, but rather pick up straight away from where he left off. And how that has enabled him to grow his business and get development done so much faster. So let's go inside now and meet with Ike. Hi Ike, thank you firstly for taking time out of your busy schedule to meet with me here in Atlanta. To begin with, could you please introduce yourself and your company?
I'm the president and CEO of Launchpad Pro, and we are building an online network to bridge the gap between business and social and make the fields that people are passionate about more open and connected.
So Launchpad Pro, it's a social network with a difference. Could you tell me more about how it's different from other social networks out there?
Well, we're trying to provide more depth and substance to social networking, to take social networking past selfies and images of maybe plates of food, and that we want to build communities for people to network within based off of their aspirations, their personal goals, their ambitions.
So how does Launchpad Pro work? There's a lot of functionality on it. Could you please elaborate on that?
Well, the most important area of our site would be the news feed, and similar to the way that Facebook has a news feed where you view posts of people, this is where you would view what we call launches. Within each genre, you can make your specifications as to the content that you want to see. Then you have the ability to make a note of these posts, which is our version of the like. And when you make a note of each post, that note or post is saved in your notepad area, and you're able to go back there later and add any notes to it or mark whether you felt positively or negatively about that post. You also have the ability to recommend a post, which is our version of the share. And you can share any information that you think might be relevant to other parties from our website on our website. Now, we do keep track of all the notes and recommendations for each post so that once a user has filtered the newsfeed as per their specifications within each genre, they are then able to choose whether they would like to view the most noted, the most recommended, or all the posts from that genre and their selections within that genre in sequential order. And each launch or post can be accompanied by a series of polls. We have 3 different polling templates that our users are able to implement in their post, and through that they're able to conduct market research, and all the statistics and information is saved for them, and they're able to go back and read through it.
With such a unique idea, were you not concerned about your intellectual property and data security when looking to offshore and partner with Virtual Employee?
Well, yes, that's actually one of the reasons why we decided to go with Virtual Employee. We saw that they provided a unique advantage and that we were able to take our intellectual property overseas and essentially hide it from everyone locally. The contracts that we sign with Virtual Employee state very clearly that we own all the rights to the work, and that was one of the main factors in our decision to go with Virtual Employee, because we saw that they understood how important our intellectual property was to us, and they were willing to ensure that they protected it, and that made us feel comfortable pursuing offshore development for this website. And by building it on the other side of the world, we were really able to protect it and keep it away from anyone in our area who might have an opportunity to become a competitor after they gain some sort of access to our intellectual property. And so really, by being able to outsource the work in the early stages of the project where intellectual property is really all we had, it was an advantage to be able to work with people who were so far away. Virtual Employee takes great strides to protect the intellectual property of their clients. There are a lot of protocols in place in regards to how the staff is trained and in regards to the equipment that's made available to the staff that would make it difficult for any intellectual property theft to occur. And we know that they are made very aware of the consequences of intellectual property theft or any leaked information regarding our company's intellectual property. And so those safeguards made us feel even more secure.
So how did you then start off the development work once you started availing our services? What was the initial brainstorming sessions like?
Well, we had a lot of conversations as to the wireframes, and by wireframes I just mean the designs for each page of the website, what the functions for each page would be, and essentially what the overarching concept of the website was, so they could kind of see the product from our standpoint. And obviously that would make it easier for them to develop it. The first thing we wanted to know from our developers was what's the best language for us to build this product in, and for us it was PHP. Most websites use PHP. And after that, it was really up to them. We left it to their discretion. Being as they're the ones who are developing and programming, we wanted them to do things that they were comfortable doing, as long as they understood what our requirements were on the front end and what we needed to come away with. However they wanted to reach those ends, we left to them.
Could you please shed some light on the technical and design aspects that have gone into making Launchpad Pro?
It starts with the selection of the language for the code base. We chose PHP, and a database. For that, we chose MySQL. And then the design work, everything from the color to the logo, all these things had to come together, and we relied heavily on our team overseas to help us meet these needs. Thankfully, the most difficult aspects are being taken care of by our development team.
What have been the biggest challenges involved in building Launchpad Pro?
Definitely the filtration process on the newsfeed. It's not easy moving between all these different parts, from genres to maybe your business or personal contacts. We also have the ability for users to follow people or add them to their feed. And what your feed is a news feed that's based only off of actual individuals that you're interested in keeping track of. And so all of this information has to be then filtered as per either sequential order, most noted, or most recommended. And then they have the ability to move back to the genres, choose what subsets within the genres they're interested in, and then filter that information in the same order again. And so it became a quite complicated process on the back end. Understanding how to go from something on paper to an actual product, and the work that would take place not just in designing and conceptualizing it, but on the programming end, what it would take for them to build it. We finally understood how difficult some of the tasks that we place in front of them might be, and how that would affect the time frame. And from there, we were able to understand, okay, well, this is how much funding we will need for this portion of time. And really just being able to build based off of their skill set.
Well, I know that there's a lot of activity going on behind the scenes with Launchpad Pro. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's more functionalities that you might add at later stages.
Absolutely.
Has that been a challenge in planning your code for something that might be done much further down the line? So making a robust structure that can handle that change.
Yes.
A year down the line.
We've made it clear to our developers that we intend to expand upon our ideas and upon the features that we've already added to this product. And we've actually built it in versions. And so we already know what version 5 and 6 looks like. But right now we're focused on version 1. And we made it clear to them that this is just the beginning and this is really a foundation. And so during the building process, during the programming and the development process, they've had this in mind and they've built a product that's ready to be scaled up as needed.
How would you evaluate the results that your team in India have produced? How would you evaluate the code and the quality of code that they've developed and designed?
Quality's been excellent. We're actually really surprised and we're happy with everything that we've received so far. When we finished the initial designs, we realized that what we had was something that no one had ever done before in terms of a website. And so our concern was, can this even be done? And so it was really big for us that really no matter what we put in front of this development team, they were able to accomplish the task. Yeah, definitely their skill set has been extremely impressive. We can't really say anything negative in terms of their abilities because after taking some time to work with developers here and away, the best developers that we've worked with are from Virtual Employee.
So, Ike, what's impressed you most about the development work done by your team?
I would say that the most impressive thing is the ability for them to understand what we're really going for. And the really incredible thing about that is that a lot of this has never been done before. The only reference point for the majority of this work were our own designs, and they had to go based off of that. They had to really get on the same page as us, and that's important for any company or for any team, is for everyone to be in one accord so that you can receive the goals that you had in mind or the end product that you had in mind. And so they really had to work hard to understand how we viewed not just a product but social networking and what we were trying to achieve from a standpoint of development. And so it required our development team to really rely on us, and we in turn had to rely solely on our development team to bring this product to life. And so it really brought us together.
How do you work with your team in India?
We rely heavily on Skype. The day usually begins with a face-to-face meeting and then messages back and forth through Skype in between those video calls. At the beginning of the day, we might do a call to discuss all the tasks for that day. And in between that time, they might have received a message that would brief them on everything that they would need to know before that call so that we can have a productive conversation. Once we finish that call, I remain available, and if they have any questions or concerns, they can send me a message. And if it requires a phone call or a conversation, we take back to Skype. And then at the end of the day, we will share a screen on Skype and they can show me the work that they've done before I do any testing on my own end. And so we spend a lot of time conversing back and forth, yeah. At certain points in time, you want to have a chance to not just discuss the work, but the way that you want to approach the work. Maybe we want to take things more slowly at a certain point because we're not exactly sure about what we're doing and we want to kind of build it and then look at it. And then at other points in time, we have a really solid idea of what we're doing and we want them to step on the gas pedal. And so again, every time we meet up to have these conversations, they do a really great job of picking up on what we're feeling and on what we need from them in terms of the way that we need them to approach the work. And they've always done a good job of responding to that. And then in between that day and the next day, we rely on emails so that they're briefed before the beginning of each shift as to what tasks they'll have in front of them and what we need to talk about that day.
So given how you work with your team in India, I know there's a lot of collaboration that you have with them. Do you consider them to be colleagues? Do you consider them as in-house staff, or albeit halfway around the world?
Well, actually, I consider them to be colleagues and, in fact, friends at this point. We've worked together for almost a year now. We do spend a lot of time also getting to know each other, and we've formed somewhat of a personal relationship. And I really do appreciate their work, and I let them know as much as possible Uh, it's really hard to imagine not having them with us at this point in time. And I can honestly say, when we first began outsourcing this work, I did not expect to end up feeling that way. But we don't really feel like we're outsourcing any work, because they're dedicated to our company and they're dedicated to our tasks, and we've never felt any conflicts of interest whatsoever. There's something about having someone working with you on a regular basis, seeing them every day, having conversations with them every day, that you start to feel a connection between yourself and that person. And so, yeah, they're most definitely colleagues and friends, that people that we very much care about and we very much appreciate.
So Ike, you actually opted for our team model service over our dedicated employee option. Some of our viewers might not know that we have two different service models. Why did you want to go down the team model option?
For the same reason that I decided not to approach this project on my own. When you're taking on something that you, in a sense, feel is bigger than yourself, you realize that two heads are better than one, not just in terms of the amount of work that you can get done, but these things can be mentally taxing and emotionally taxing. And at certain times, you might need someone to pick you up. You might need someone to be there with you. And we just wanted to expand upon that and make sure that that component was there for the entire staff and for the entire team. And so we saw the team model as a benefit in that we weren't placing the responsibilities of development on one person's shoulders. That load could be shared, and those people could work together and share their concerns together. And so, in a sense, there's strength in the unity and in the numbers that we have here, and we wanted to make sure that that was extended to our development team. By having a team of people working on the project, the knowledge base for that product is shared among individuals. And so if at any point in time development did have to stop, or if at any point in time one of the developers did have to step away, there's still someone there to act as a resource for the new developer and to help him or her get up to speed from a technical standpoint, which we might not be able to do as well. And so it was key to have the team model available in regards to knowledge retention, basically to share the burden of that knowledge retention and make sure that we can, in the future, ensure that that knowledge is available. And we wanted to be able to share the responsibilities of development of this project or development of this product between more than one person, so that our developer would have someone else to rely on and have someone else to work with and share the burden with.
But like, why did you want different staff with different skill sets? Why did you need that burden shared? Could you share that with our viewers?
At certain points in time, we might find that one person's skill set is better suited for a task than another. And so in this sense, each person can put their best foot forward and know that if at any point in time they feel like they might not be the best suited for that particular task, that their partner is capable of handling it. And so that gives them the confidence to perform well in the areas that they do feel like they're ready to contribute.
I wanted to touch on also the several layers that there are to Launchpad Pro. For our viewers who are not technical, they might not often know or appreciate that there's so much that goes into making an application like this. There's the design, the development, and even mobile now. So could you shed some light on the different skill sets that you've needed to utilize over the course of your journey in developing this application?
Absolutely. I guess you can say it might start with the design team, the people who put together the look and the feel based off of our wireframes, everything from the color to the logo. Then there's the actual programming that takes place, the choice of language, the programming of the database, and the planning that goes into a project like that from a technical aspect. You have to bring all of these components together so they can function as one. And from a technical aspect, it can get very complicated when you get down to the functionalities that we required and the amount of programming that would need to take place and the types of queries and logic that would need to be written so that we could achieve this functionality with our product.
What have been the biggest benefits of availing Virtual Employee Service? I know since you've started working with us, you've scaled up and scaled down. Has that been a key advantage for you?
Well, I think at some point you can say, scale down might be an understatement because of how capital intensive a project can be sometimes. Development might have to stop due to a lack of funding. And for us, that definitely took place. And it was a significant period of time, over 6 months perhaps, but we were still able to pick right back up at the place we left off with the same exact group of people. There was no learning curve. There was no time wasted getting reacquainted with each other or with the project. It was almost like we never stopped. And that was huge for us, to be able to keep that continuity going and to be able to get moving right away rather than start the whole process of getting to know new developers and introduce them to the project and have them take time to get acquainted with the code. None of that played a factor the second time around, and it allowed us to make better use of our time and our funds, and we really appreciated that. Obviously, the capital, for a startup company, you're not going to have a lot of money to begin with, and so by outsourcing that work, we're able to actually hire developers with an amount of capital that would not have been able to hire any developers here locally in the States. At the same time, despite the fact that it costs less, the skill set, the experience, they were the same, if not better, in terms of what I would receive here. And so we really didn't lose out. If anything, what we did was just save money and time. It would have taken me so much longer to accrue the funds that it would take to get and retain that kind of talent here than it was for me to work with Virtual Employee. They select people who are suited to what your project is. They set up the interview process and they bring the candidates to the table. So essentially there's built-in headhunting, and it really makes the whole process a lot easier in terms of hiring people and bringing people on board.
So moving forward, strategically, what does that mean for Launchpad Pro, knowing that you have the ability to turn off the tap, scale down for 6 months if you need to, but then in 6 months or a year's time, when your company is at a position where you need to start development again on a new phase of the project, you can do that. What does that strategically enable you as a CEO to do?
Well, first and foremost, it allows you to sleep well at night, knowing that in a worst case scenario situation, you can in fact put something like development of your product to the side and know that in the future when you're ready to pick it back up, you're not going to be dealing with the same problems that you might have dealt with if you had done that locally, or if you had to hire a staff locally, let employees go, and then have to rehire and headhunt all over again. None of that came into play. So that means that if at any point in time I do need to focus on another aspect of our business, I'm able to do so and know that I have a safety net there in the form of Virtual Employee, where a group of people are still dedicated to me and my project, even though we aren't in contact at that time.
Why did you decide to partner with Virtual Employee over one of our competitors?
Well, when we did our research, one thing that stood out to us was that Virtual Employee took a great deal of care to protect the intellectual property of their clients. And that to us was paramount. As a startup company, it's really all you have. And so if the company that we're working with doesn't go to great lengths to protect our intellectual property, then we're really leaving ourselves exposed. So once we understood that this company had the same, but was providing a service that we greatly needed, and that not only do they have the technical support there for our company, but they understand what's important to our company, and they're willing to make that important to their company, it was a no-brainer.
There's a 9 to 10 hour, I think approximately 9 to 10 hour time zone difference between India and Atlanta, Georgia. Has that been a challenge for you?
we realized that there's a pretty large difference in time in that essentially our daytime is their nighttime. And so we do our development work during the night hours, either from 2:30 to 10:30 a.m. or from 4:30 a.m. to 12:30 on this side. And so it's been advantageous to us in that we develop at night and I'm able to go back to working on the business during the daytime. And at certain points during the project, that really played a major role in allowing us to keep development going because we needed to procure more funds. And I can't very well meet with people during the nighttime. And so I was able to continue developing and continue fundraising at the same time. Both of those things are really large endeavors, and they are very time-taking tasks. And because we were able to maximize the entire day, we were able to really use that time difference to our advantage and take full advantage of all the hours within the day.
In the future, it may no longer be advantageous for you to have development work done during the night. Are you not concerned that this could be a problem for you further down the line?
Actually, no. We again see that as an advantage. I hope to get my nights back to myself eventually. And so I really actually relish the fact that my development team can then start working in the daytime. And so as we expand and as my staff grows here, and I'm able to spread out the responsibilities, then it would become possible for us to do things like fundraise and develop at the same time or at the same portion of the day. And so at that point, yes, we do hope that our staff can transition to our own hours, and we know that they have that capability. So we very much look forward to it. Virtual Employees made it very clear that if at any point in time the shift or the timing of the shifts need to change, that they're more than equipped to handle that.
I know that from the conversation we had earlier that you want to also set up a local team here in the States at some point in the future. But there is a lot of anti-outsourcing sentiment and rhetoric. You might be criticized for outsourcing to India when you did. What would be your response to those critics?
Well, I'd ask those people to take a more long-term view or try to see things in a big picture. As a startup company, you don't necessarily have the funds to build a team locally at any point in time. That can be an extremely capital-intensive venture. And so by outsourcing that work, we're able to secure a foundation and a future for our company so that one day we would have the infrastructure in place to support a local team. And so I would say that it's really better late than never, in that at the end of the day, we do make a contribution to the American economy, and it really actually can't happen unless we do outsource that work for some time.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, once you have something up and running, and you've mitigated your risks as much as possible, it increases your chances of having a sustainable business, which
Exactly.
in turn then enables you to hire locally, which is something that I know you do eventually long-term want to do.
Absolutely.
So in that respect, that's how you see yourself outsourcing and benefiting the U.S. economy at the same time.
Absolutely. I think that you have to take a big picture or a long-term view to outsourcing and understand that for certain companies at certain stages in time, there's really no other option. And if you do take that long-term view, if you do see the big picture, you can understand that by outsourcing, we're able to actually make a contribution to the American economy. It just takes a little bit longer than some people might like it to, but better late than never. Outsourcing is, it's necessary for a lot of companies. Without Virtual Employee, we wouldn't be here. There's just no way that we could have afforded to do the things that we have done overseas in this country.
Ike, is there anything else you'd like to add for the benefit of our viewers?
Well, I would say that when you have a company, it means the world to you. This is my life. I put everything that I had into this, and you want to know that you're working with people who are going to respect that. My partner and I have had to sacrifice a great deal. When we started this company, I was still a student and so was he, but he was closer to graduating than I was. And so it made more sense for me to say, look, Matt, you need to finish school and get a job and start. And in the meantime, we can use that income to supplement ourselves, and you can work with me during your off hours. And in that way, in case there were any failures, in case things didn't pan out, it wasn't necessary for both of us to jeopardize our futures. And so if one man could fall on the grenade, especially being the one who asked him to step into the ring with me in the first place, it only made sense that I should do that. And on Matt's end, he has dedicated every free moment that he's had to this company, despite the fact that he deals with a form of epilepsy that can be aggravated by stress and a lack of sleep. He is still dedicated countless late night hours, and time in the wee mornings to us. And as a result, he has already suffered seizures, but there's nothing I can do to stop him from making these contributions because he refuses to leave me to face this alone. I think the one thing that I can say is that both of us couldn't ask for a better partner. And so when you look to outsource that work or when you look to add to that team, you need to know that you're bringing quality to the table, and you're going to be working with people who will respect that. And Virtual Employee has always done that. And when you have that level of commitment, when you have that type of sacrifice taking place, you want to know that whoever comes aboard is going to be appreciative and respectful of that. And that's what we got with VEE. Our employees understand how much this project means to us, and they respect the amount of work that we've put into it, and they match our enthusiasm and our fervor, and that's all we can really ask for at the end of the day.
Lastly, Ike, would you recommend Virtual Employee Services?
Absolutely. I feel that you really can't do any better as far as looking for people to bring to the table who might not be local in terms of their status as an employee. We don't really think of it as outsourcing because they've always been dedicated to our company, and they've always been dedicated to our vision, and they've always been dedicated to us. So in a sense we are, but at the end of the day, they're our guys. I feel like being that they offer so many different forms of service, there's really no reason that you shouldn't look to see if there's any way that you can be, if there's any way that they can help your company or your business. I know that no matter the size or scale of a company, capital will always be an issue. And at certain points in time, it's necessary to look outside of the States for some time to see if there's a way that you can bring some aid to your company. And so if anyone is in that position, I would say Virtual Employee is a place to go.
Ike, it's been an absolute pleasure learning more about your journey and Launchpad Pro over the last 2 days. I would just like to thank you once again for taking time out and sharing your experience with our viewers.
Thank you.
In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, I thought it was very interesting to see Ike's take on data security, intellectual property, and time zone when it comes to offshoring to India. And most importantly, I think it's important to note that offshoring to India is not all about cost saving. The ability to scale up and down with ease, and best of all, retain the knowledge when you do scale down, is going to give your business a huge advantage, because you're not going to have to start from scratch again with a new developer. So please do keep those other factors in mind when thinking of offshoring to India. Thank you very much for watching, and best of luck with all your future endeavors.